Welcome to the Rapport Review Podcast, your space for education, conversation, growth, and change. Sandy and Chip, with every brief episode, will take a moment to slow down, reflect, and explore counseling, its challenges, and victories that shape daily lives. Whether you're a therapist, a client, or simply someone on a journey of personal development, you're in the right place. Let's dive in, learn together, and keep moving forward. This is the Rapport Review Podcast.
You know that feeling, right? You're in a meeting, maybe clenching your jaw, or you're just running late, and you feel that heat start to rise.
That feeling of being completely thwarted.
Exactly. And in that moment, you can feel how anger can just become this engine of destruction.
It's a really profound internal shift, isn't it? Because anger, it's a completely normal human emotion. It's actually essential.
It's a signal.
It's a signal, yeah, for injustice or danger. But when it becomes intense or chronic or just, poorly managed, it stops being a signal and it becomes the problem.
And that's what anger management is really about.
It is. It's a program for prevention, for control. It's about giving you the tools to use that energy without causing damage to others or, just as importantly, to yourself.
I think we all get that feeling of being in the red zone. But what is it fundamentally that pushes us there? Is it always something malicious?
Rarely. It's usually a kind of psychological self-defense. The biggest drivers are intense frustration, feeling blocked or having some vital expectation just completely unmet.
Or fear, I imagine.
Or fear, exactly. It can be a very powerful defensive response to feeling vulnerable or scared. And here's the real problem. That immediate experience of anger.
Yeah.
It just tanks your impulse control.
Right.
And it really harms your ability to make rational decisions in that moment.
It's the ultimate cognitive system hijack. So our mission today is to give you that toolkit. We're going on a deep dive into this ancient and very persistent emotion.
We'll look at its history, the neurobiology.
And the most effective treatments, especially debunking some of the myths around anger release. And then, of course, the practical strategies you can apply immediately, all curated from the sources you sent us.
It's fascinating stuff.
It is. And what's wild is that this conversation, it's centuries old. We don't start in the 1970s with clinical programs. We can go all the way back to 4 BC.
To the Roman philosopher Seneca the Younger.
Exactly.
And what's so amazing about Seneca is how his advice, lines up with modern preventative strategies. He advised preemptively avoiding confrontational situations.
Avoidance is a first step.
Yes, and a heavy focus on perspective taking. He got that so much of our rage comes from demanding that reality just bend to our expectations.
And even earlier figures weighed in. I saw Galen, the physician, recommended finding a mentor.
A mentor, yeah. To get objective feedback, accountability, it sounds a lot like a modern therapeutic alliance, doesn't it?
It really does. But I guess back then, they didn't have the science to explain why this advice was so hard to follow.
Right. Those were the early attempts. But now, when we fast forward to modern neurobiology, we can see exactly what's happening under the hood.
So where does that flash of rage actually come from in the brain? Is it a thinking process?
Not at first. Modern science has identified these deep rage circuits. And what's crucial is that they run from subcortical areas.
The primitive parts.
The really primitive emotional centers like the amygdala and the hypothalamus up toward the midbrain. The wiring itself means anger is tied to our basic survival systems. It's incredibly fast. It bypasses your rational prefrontal cortex entirely.
Which is why we act before we think.
Precisely.
And when anger becomes a recurring problem, it locks you into this vicious cycle. It just feeds itself.
It's a self-feeding fire. That's the perfect way to describe it. It always starts with the situation.
The trigger.
The trigger, which then ignites these intense feelings, furious, irritable, tense, and that immediately flips a switch in your body.
The physical symptoms.
Your heart starts racing, blood pressure shoots up, maybe your shoulders get tense. It's that classic full-blown fight or flight response. Your body is ready for a fight.
And the physical feelings, they feed the most dangerous part. The thoughts.
Exactly. Your body's ready to fight, and now your mind scrambles to justify it. You get these negative thoughts, these unhelpful beliefs like they did that on purpose or this is intolerable.
Right. I shouldn't have to deal with this.
And those thoughts, now they're fueled by adrenaline. They motivate the aggressive behaviors, shouting, storming out, whatever it is. And of course, those behaviors have bad outcomes, which just reinforces the whole cycle.
And over time, that has to do real physical damage.
Absolutely. Prolonged exposure to that stress cycle contributes directly to things like hypertension, heart disease, even chronic pain.
So anger is this active emotion calling for a response. The ancients focused on prevention, but modern methods, like from Meichenbaum and Novaco in the 70s, they focus on channeling it.
That's the key transition. But before we even get into what modern programs suggest, we have to talk about the biggest myth.
Oh, catharsis.
Catharsis, exactly. This idea of, letting off steam.
Right. The old psychoanalytic idea that if you just get it out, it's gone from your system.
Yeah, no, well, the data is just brutal to that theory. I mean, there's a massive 2024 meta-analysis, and it found absolutely, and I mean zero evidence that venting or expressing anger actually reduces it.
That is genuinely shocking. So if I'm angry and I go hit a punching bag, I'm not draining the rage.
You might be making it worse. The sources were clear that interventions that increased arousal, like hitting a bag or even jogging while you're in a state of rage, they had no effect on reducing anger over time.
Why not?
Because you're just rehearsing and reinforcing the aggressive pathway while keeping your body in that high alert state. You're practicing being aggressive.
So if venting is useless, maybe even harmful, what does the data say actually works in the moment?
You have to pivot completely. You have to manage the arousal itself. That same meta-analysis found treatments that focused on decreasing arousal had the highest success rate.
So relaxation.
Relaxation, regulated breathing, mindfulness. Anything that interrupts that fight or flight response. And of course, you can't forget the basics. Good sleep, regular exercise, a decent diet. They lower your baseline stress so you're less reactive to begin with.
Which brings us right to the core psychological toolkits.
Mm-hmm.
To fundamentally change that cycle, it sounds like we have to start with cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
Yes, CBT is the anchor for most modern programs. Its power is in recognizing that the event isn't the problem, it's our interpretation of the event.
Yes, the story we tell ourselves about it.
It is. So CBT teaches you to challenge and replace those irrational thoughts, the demands, the assumptions that are really the fuel for the fire. There's a version called REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, that really hones in on this. It says the anger comes from your rigid beliefs about an event, not the event itself.
Would you give me a concrete example? What's an irrational demand?
The classic one is demandingness. So someone cuts you off in traffic. The event is just bad driving. The irrational demand is drivers must be polite and they must never inconvenience me.
Right.
The anger comes from the belief that reality has violated your non-negotiable rule. CBT helps you rephrase that to a preference like, I prefer that drivers are polite, but it's not a catastrophe when they aren't.
So what's the first tangible technique they teach you to break that cycle?
The first, most foundational one is simply delayed reaction. Just putting time between the trigger and your response.
Counting to 10.
Counting to 10. Waiting 10 hours before you answer that inflammatory email. You're just giving your rational brain a chance to get back online. Then you move into the deeper work. Cognitive restructuring.
Which is uncovering those unhelpful patterns.
Exactly. Identifying those automatic thoughts, jumping to conclusions, all or nothing thinking, and systematically replacing them with more balanced views. Maybe that driver wasn't trying to ruin your day. Maybe they were rushing to the hospital.
So if CBT is the foundation, then DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, sounds like it's the advanced toolkit for really intense emotions.
That's a great way to put it. DBT builds on CBT, but it was made specifically for people managing severe emotional intensity, originally for borderline personality disorder.
But now it's used more broadly.
Much more broadly. For impulse control disorders, and it's even been adapted for people with intellectual disabilities. It's built on 4 core skill modules.
Okay, let's break those down.
First is mindfulness, which is that non-judgmental present moment awareness. Second, distress tolerance, how to get through a crisis without making it worse. Third, emotional regulation, which is about identifying and changing your emotional reaction. And fourth, interpersonal effectiveness.
Which is basically learning how to ask for what you need without starting a fight.
Essentially, yes. How to get your needs met while maintaining the relationship and your self-respect.
Let's focus on mindfulness for a second. It has these Eastern spiritual roots. How does just being present stop a physiological rage response?
The key is non-judgmental acceptance. When you feel that heat rising, your instinct is either to clamp down on it or act on it. Mindfulness teaches you that the physical sensations, the tense shoulders, the fast heart rate, are just temporary data. They aren't commands.
So you observe the feeling without becoming the feeling.
Exactly. You learn that angry thoughts are just thoughts. And that simple act helps to break the link between the physical arousal and the aggressive action.
I saw a really specific technique mentioned in the sources. Meditation on the soles of the feet. Why the feet?
It's brilliantly simple. When you're enraged, your mind is chaotic. Your feet are, for most people, a very neutral part of the body. Focusing on them grounds you. It pulls your attention away from the emotional storm in your head and chest.
And this actually works.
It's been shown to successfully decrease aggressive behavior, even in clinical settings with individuals who have mild intellectual disabilities. It proves that even a simple nonverbal grounding exercise can be incredibly powerful.
Okay, so pulling all this together, if someone listening were to start an evidence-based anger program today, what's the general 3-step process they could expect?
It would likely follow the flow we've been discussing. Step 1, identify your anger cues. Self-monitoring, learning what situations, what automatic thoughts are your personal triggers. You have to know what starts the fire.
Before your emotional system hijacks your cognitive one.
Exactly. Step 2, teach relaxation techniques. This is where you apply the arousal-decreasing skills-regulated breathing, physically removing yourself from the situation. And then step 3 is use role play and repetition.
Practice.
You have to practice. You rehearse appropriate responses in simulated situations so that when the pressure is on for real, the new, better technique becomes automatic.
Okay, we've covered the deep science and the clinical strategies. Let's pivot now to the immediate actionable tips that you can use right now. Things sourced from experts like the Mayo Clinic.
These are the tools for those daily pressure cooker moments.
Let's start with communication first. Think before you speak. When you feel that surge, just force yourself to take a few moments. Let yourself cool down and let the other people involved do the same.
And when you do speak, aim for assertiveness, not aggression. That means using I statements.
So instead of, you never do the dishes.
Right, which is an attack. You say, I feel upset that the kitchen is messy. You're describing the problem and owning your feeling without placing blame.
Okay, second, physical intervention that isn't a punching bag. Exercise.
A brisk walk, a quick run, when you are not already in the throes of rage. It's a fantastic way to lower your overall stress level and burn off that excess energy.
And in the moment.
Don't underestimate a simple timeout. Even just 5 minutes away from your desk or stepping out of the room can let that initial spike of adrenaline start to flatten out.
Third, focus on solving the problem, not on being right. Identify solutions.
Yes. If the messy room is the trigger, the solution isn't to fight about it, it's to close the door. Focus on the practical fix, not the emotional payoff you think you'll get from the argument.
Which connects to the next tip. Don't hold a grudge.
Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and hoping the other person gets sick. The sources really emphasize that practicing forgiveness prevents bitterness from setting in, which is just low-grade fuel for the next argument.
What about humor? Can that help?
It can be a great tension reliever, but you have to be careful. Lighthearted humor is great. Sarcasm, though, is just hostility with a smile. It will make things much, much worse.
And finally, back to that core clinical skill. Practice relaxation skills.
Deep breathing, visualizing a calm place, repeating a calming phrase to yourself. These are the immediate first aid tools for managing arousal.
The sources also mention anger journaling.
Yeah, this has been shown to be really effective, even with kids. Just the act of logging your anger, writing down what happened, how you felt, it externalizes the problem and helps you understand your own patterns better.
And when you're actually talking to someone, communication is everything.
It truly is. You have to listen carefully, avoid making assumptions. A good trick is to paraphrase. So what I think I'm hearing you say is X, is that right?
And express yourself assertively.
Yes, that confident middle ground between being passive, where your needs are never met, and being aggressive, where you steamroll others. Assertiveness respects both you and them.
And these techniques are so powerful, they're used in really high-stakes contexts.
Absolutely. The most obvious one is court-ordered anger management.
Right, for crimes like assault or property damage.
And these classes aren't just suggestions anymore. They teach stress management, emotional intelligence. Completing them can be crucial for someone's legal case. And many courts now accept online versions, which is great for accessibility.
And this extends beyond the legal system.
Oh, definitely. Think about high-stress jobs. Raymond Novaco, who we mentioned, developed specialized training for law enforcement officers to reduce things like police brutality by focusing on conflict resolution.
A critical adaptation of the toolkit. Where else?
You see it with caretakers of people with dementia, a hugely stressful role. The skills help them reduce their own negative feelings. And in neurology, there are programs that help TBI patients, people with traumatic brain injuries, reduce their frequency of angry actions.
But the sources also pointed out it's not always successful. There are roadblocks.
The biggest one, almost always, is low motivation. If you're only there because a judge sent you, genuine change is a lot harder.
And cultural differences.
And culture, yes. What counts as appropriate anger expression varies hugely around the world, and gender expectations play a massive role, too. A good program has to be sensitive to that.
This whole deep dive really drives home that anger is this powerful protective force that's built into us, but it's one we have to consciously choose to manage.
And the rewards are holistic. When you consistently use these relaxation techniques, you can actually reduce pain sensitivity, lower your blood pressure, even boost your immune system. It's a physical benefit as much as a mental one.
And crucially, we've learned that suppression just doesn't work. Trying to bottle it up leads to anxiety or passive aggression or just blows up later. The real power is in recognizing the cues and then applying the right tool before the emotional system completely takes over.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to reflect on. The research is overwhelming that the most effective treatments challenge those unhelpful beliefs before the anger cue even triggers the hijack. Think back to that ancient advice of Thinodorus telling the Emperor Octavian to recite the alphabet before acting in anger.
Creating that delay.
Creating that delay. So ask yourself, what small, seemingly rational belief, a demand or an expectation you place on the world or on other people, can you consciously question today to disarm your internal rage circuit before it even starts to fire?
Thank you for joining today's Rapport Review. If this episode connected with you, inspired you, or gave you something meaningful to reflect on, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might need it too. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay grounded, stay growing, and take good care of yourself. This is Antonio, signing off from the Rapport Review Podcast.